Welcome back, everyone. We're kicking off a deep dive into a topic I know is top of mind for many of you, early retirement, and specifically how to make it happen even with that thing looming over our heads, the gender wage gap.
Right. It's one of those things where it can feel like this insurmountable obstacle.
Absolutely.
But the good news is it doesn't have to be. We're diving into those concrete, actionable strategies, really getting into the nitty-gritty.
Love it. So no doom and gloom here, just pure empowering action. Let's be real, though, the wage gap is real. So before we get into the how-to, let's paint a picture of what we're dealing with.
Totally. Let's bring in some of that data. One study we've got right here says that women, on average, are earning about 82 cents for every dollar a man earns.
82 cents, that's a big chunk.
And it gets, well, frankly, worse.
Hmm.
That gap widens for women of color, making those tailored solutions even more critical. We're talking potentially years of extra work just to reach the same savings goals.
Years. That's not just about fairness. It's about time, our most valuable asset, especially when we're talking about retiring early. So where do we even begin?
Knowing your personal starting point is huge. We talk about the wage gap generally, but using those online salary comparison tools, that can really help you put a number on your personal gap.
Okay, so knowledge is power. We've got to know our numbers. But then what? How do we use that knowledge? I mean, do we just march into our boss's office and say, hey, statistics say I deserve a raise?
Huh. Well, I admire the enthusiasm, but it's not about demanding. It's about, well, the source puts it really well, demonstrating your worth. And it gives some really practical tactics, like first up, gather that data, but not just any data, data on market rates for your position, your experience level, even your location.
Okay, so like come prepared.
Exactly. Think of it like prepping for a job interview.
You wouldn't just walk in blind. Right, I get it. But even with all the data and preparation, that word negotiation still makes me a little,
Yeah, I hear you. It can feel intimidating. But one of the sources, it really emphasizes framing your request as a win-win, which can really help.
Win-win. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do that?
Well, they actually suggest practicing specific phrases like, based on my research and contributions, I believe a salary of your target range is appropriate.
Oh, I like that. That's assertive, but also like you're on the same team.
Exactly. It's not about being aggressive.
More like confidently advocating for yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've tackled those salary negotiations, but what about exploring other income avenues? Beyond the traditional 9 to 5 side hustles, maybe?
Yes, multiple income streams. One of the sources had a really cool way of putting it. Imagine each income stream as an engine propelling you toward your early retirement.
Multiple engines. Okay, now we're talking. I'm all about that. But honestly, the thought of adding more to our plates, it can feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. Which is why another source's advice really resonated with me. They said, start small. Think about those existing skills or passions you already have.
Okay, so it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about leveraging what we're already good at.
Exactly. One of the sources highlighted freelance writing and virtual assistant services.
Those are great options, especially for people who are good communicators and super organized. But even with multiple income streams, making that money work for you, that's key, right?
Absolutely. And that's where investing comes in.
Okay, so investing, I have to admit, that's a word that can feel kind of intimidating. Any advice for a newbie, especially with early retirement in mind?
Oh, totally. You don't need to be a Wall Street whiz. This one source broke down a sample portfolio, and I thought it was brilliant.
A sample portfolio. Tell me more.
So they recommended allocating a percentage to index funds, broad market exposure, then another portion to real estate crowdfunding.
Oh, for passive income, right?
Exactly. And then a smaller percentage for those higher risk, high reward investments, maybe individual stocks, maybe even.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
So diversification is key.
got it.
Yes. It's about spreading that risk. Okay, so we're diversifying, but how much is enough? Especially when time is on our side, supposedly. How crucial is starting early, really?
It's not just crucial, it's practically a non-negotiable.
Okay, strong words. Why is that?
It's the magic of compound interest, that earlier you start, even with small amounts, the more time it has to grow.
Compound interest, right. It's like that snowball effect we all dream of.
Exactly. And the beauty is, you don't need a ton of money to get started. One of the sources suggested Roth IRAs or 401k.
Retirement accounts, got it. So we've got our income engines running. We're investing that money wisely. But how much is enough to actually retire early? Is there like a magic number?
There is. It's called your FIRE number.
Fire number.
Yeah. Financial independence, retire early. It's the amount you need invested to cover those living expenses for, well, forever.
Forever, wow. That sounds both exhilarating and terrifying. How do you even begin to calculate something like that?
It's actually simpler than you might think.
Yeah.
One of the sources, they had a really easy formula. You multiply your estimated annual expenses by 25.
Times 25. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. So that's the magic number. My ticket to freedom.
Well, it's a starting point. Keep in mind your expenses might change, right?
Right.
And investment returns, they can fluctuate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a moving target. Check in on it now and then.
Makes sense. Stay flexible. Life throws curveballs. Right. Okay, so this has been super insightful, but I'm curious. Women face those unique challenges on this journey to early retirement. Are there any resources or support systems out there, to help navigate the hurdles and provide some encouragement along the way?
Absolutely. You are not alone. One of the sources talked about that the power of community, especially for women, going after financial independence.
I love that because it's true. Sometimes it can feel like you're going at this whole early retirement thing solo, which is, well, it can be intimidating.
Totally. It's like
Sure.
having that cheering section in your back pocket,
Yeah.
right? People who
Sure.
get it, who can offer advice, celebrate those wins with you.
Yes. So we're not just talking about like financial advisors, right?
Right.
More like a network, a support system.
Exactly. Think online forums, maybe those Facebook groups for, say, women entrepreneurs, or even those mentorship programs geared toward, empowering women in finance.
There are some great ones out there. One of the sources actually mentioned Ellevest.
Oh, yeah. LVS is fantastic.
It's a digital investment platform made
Yeah.
by women for women, and they've got that community aspect, which I love.
It's so important. It's that sense of, hey, I'm not alone in this.
Totally. Shared experience, even some accountability, right? Like, we're all in this together.
Exactly. And honestly, celebrating those wins together, there's nothing like it.
Absolutely. Okay, but before we move on, I wanted to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the wage gap, because it widens even further for women of color. And that's a whole other layer to this conversation.
It is. One of the sources, it gave this really eye-opening statistic. Black women, on average, earn just 63 cents for every dollar a white man earns.
63 cents. That's a massive, massive gap.
It is. And it highlights that, well, the path to financial independence, it's not the same for everyone.
Right. Systemic barriers, biases, they all play a role. So knowing that, what can we do? How do we address those inequalities?
Well, for starters, we have to acknowledge the problem. This isn't just a women's issue. It's a societal issue.
Mhm.
We have to challenge those systems that, well, frankly, perpetuate these disparities.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together
Right.
and advocating for change.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
supporting those organizations that are, on the front lines, fighting for equal pay, economic justice. Those are all things we can and should be doing.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about calculating that fire number, finding your tribe, even those systemic challenges that need to change. Before we wrap up, is there anything else listeners should keep in mind as they, embark on this early retirement journey?
As we've been talking, something keeps popping into my head, something beyond just the numbers and spreadsheets.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
We've talked about boosting that income, investing wisely, building that network. But what about defining what early retirement actually looks like for you? I mean, is it about never working again? Or is it about, having the freedom to, I don't know, pursue those passions, travel the world, spend more time with loved ones maybe?
That's such a good point. It's not just about escaping the 9-to-5 grind. It's about designing a life you're stoked about, a life that's, aligned with your values.
Exactly. One of the sources shared all these different early retirement stories, and it was so inspiring. One woman, she used her newfound freedom to start a nonprofit she'd always dreamed of. Another, she finally had the time to travel the world with her partner.
It's about designing a life you don't need a vacation from.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's easy to get so caught up in, okay, how much money do I need, that we forget about the bigger picture.
So take some time to really think about that. What does your ideal day look like in early retirement? What brings you joy?
Yes. Let those visions guide you. Having that clarity, it can be incredibly motivating, especially when things get tough.
Because they will, right? Life happens.
Exactly. And this is about so much more than just money. It's about creating a life of purpose, passion, and, dare I say, a little adventure.
A life of purpose, passion, adventure. Okay, I'm adding that to my vision board right now. But seriously, it's so easy to get bogged down in those numbers.
So
Right?
it is. But ultimately, early retirement, it's about freedom. It's about designing a life you love.
Exactly. And speaking of designing a life you love, you mentioned having one final thought for us.
I do. Just something to, well, to ponder as you continue on your journey. You know,
I love a good thought-provoking question. Hit me.
so we've been talking about, taking control, building wealth, that whole independence thing.
Mm.
But as you step into that next chapter, how can you use that freedom, those resources, to give back?
Whoa. Okay, that took a turn in a good way. But yes, how can we make a difference? Because it's not just about accumulating wealth, right? It's about...
It's about the legacy you want to leave behind. One of the sources actually touched on this, talking about ethical investing.
Ethical investing, yeah.
Choosing investments that align with your values.
Yeah.
Even if it's, small shifts, it can make a difference. Supporting sustainable businesses, companies that are doing good.
So that's something to consider, even in retirement. Our money can do good.
Exactly. And it's not all about the money either. Think about having the time to volunteer for a cause you love, maybe mentoring other women.
Oh, paying it forward. I love that. Or even starting that passion project, the one you've always dreamed of, but, life got in the way.
Exactly. See, this journey, it's about so much more than just you. It's about making a difference.
It's about creating a ripple effect. Wow. This deep dive has been incredible. I don't know about you all listening, but I'm feeling both informed and so incredibly inspired.
Me too.
So, to wrap things up, any final words of wisdom, something to leave our listeners with as they venture out into the world of early retirement planning?
Just this.
Yeah.
The path to early retirement, it might have some detours, you might hit a few bumps along the way, but armed with knowledge, a solid plan, and you know what? A supportive community, you've got this.
Yes, you do. You are capable, worthy, and you deserve to achieve those early retirement dreams. And that, my friends, is a wrap on our deep dive today. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep chasing those audacious goals.